Redfall. This game didn't just flop, it quietly exposed how broken its studio had already become. Redfall launched in May 2023 as Arkane Austin's first open-world co-op shooter, published by Bethesda and backed by Microsoft. On paper, this was Arkane, the studio behind Dishonored and Prey, making a modern, service-friendly FPS. In reality, it released at 30 FPS on Xbox Series X, missing basic features, with broken AI, empty worlds, and combat that felt years out of date. The problems weren't subtle. Enemies stood still. Stealth barely functioned. Missions repeated themselves with almost no variation. Reviews landed hard, with Metacritic scores in the low 60s and user reception even worse. Microsoft publicly acknowledged the failure. Phil Spencer apologized. Patches followed. Behind the scenes, Redfall wasn't the game Arkane wanted to make. Development started after Bethesda's push toward live service concepts, long before Microsoft's acquisition finalized. Key creative leads left mid-development. The studio was split between maintaining Arkane's immersive sim identity and chasing trends it wasn't built for. Redfall ended up being neither. Player counts collapsed within weeks. The promised post-launch support quietly slowed down. Then, in May 2024, Microsoft shut down Arkane Austin entirely. Not restructured, not downsized, closed. Redfall didn't destroy Arkane's legacy that was already secure, but it did reveal how quickly a great studio can be misaligned, redirected, and exhausted by one wrong project. Sometimes a failure doesn't feel loud. It just turns the lights off. Concord. This game was designed for a future that never actually showed up. Almost a year after Microsoft's Redfall disaster, Sony decided it wasn't about to fall behind, and with Concord, it somehow managed to outdo Microsoft at its own failure. Concord was revealed by Firewalk Studios, a Sony-backed team formed by veterans from Bungie, Activision, and Call of Duty. Announced as a premium, cinematic multiplayer shooter for PlayStation 5 and PC, it positioned itself somewhere between Overwatch and Destiny. Heavy lore, named characters, carefully crafted tone, and a $40 price tag in a genre dominated by free-to-play. That was the first problem. By the time Concord launched in 2024, the hero shooter market was already oversaturated. Overwatch 2 was free. Apex Legends was entrenched. Valorant owned PC esports. Concord offered polished gunplay and strong art direction, but nothing fundamentally new, and certainly nothing worth paying upfront for. Player numbers reflected that immediately. Steam charts dropped fast. Matchmaking slowed. Streaming interest barely existed. Sony reduced marketing almost instantly. Within weeks, Firewalk announced the game would be taken offline, promising refunds and vague plans for the future. There was no future. In early 2025, Sony shut Firewalk Studios down completely. Concord became one of the shortest-lived first-party multiplayer titles in PlayStation history. Years of development, high-profile talent, entirely erased. The irony is that Concord wasn't broken. It worked. It just didn't matter. Timing, pricing, and market reality were enough to kill it. In live service games, there is no middle ground. You're either a hit or you're a complete failure. Blur. This game did everything right, except arrive at the right moment. Blur launched in 2010, developed by Bizarre Creations, the studio behind Project Gotham Racing. It combined realistic licensed cars with arcade power-ups, blending need for speed visuals with Mario Kart chaos. Critics and players liked it. The problem was how few people actually did. Activision released Blur just weeks after Split Second and months before Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Racing fans were spread thin. Marketing was unfocused. Activision expected blockbuster numbers anyway. Blur sold roughly 1 million copies. Respectable for most studios, unacceptable for Activision. What followed was fast and brutal. Despite strong online play and long-term potential, Activision pulled support. No sequel. No extended roadmap. In November 2010, Bizarre Creations was shut down entirely. A studio with over a decade of successful racing games disappeared less than a year after Blur's launch. Blur didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because it didn't explode immediately. That was enough for Activision moved on. Racing fans didn't get another Blur. and Bizarre never got a second chance. Sometimes, a launch that's good, but not great, is enough to change everything. Saints Row Reboot. This reboot didn't modernize Saints Row, it removed the reason anyone cared. Volition's 2022 Saints Row was pitched as a fresh start. New characters, new city, new tone. The series that once thrived on chaos, satire, and escalation was reintroduced as a relatable crime story with softer humor and safer edges. Fans noticed immediately. At launch, the game was technically broken. Bugs were everywhere. Physics failed. Missions glitched. Reviews landed in the low 60s. But the bigger issue was identity. This didn't feel like Saints Row. It felt like a different franchise wearing the name. Player backlash was immediate. Volition defended creative choices. Patches followed. Sales underperformed. Embracer Group, which had acquired Volition earlier, began restructuring. In August 2023, Volition was shut down. The studio that once rivaled GTA by being louder, dumber, and more self-aware didn't survive its attempt to play things safe. Saints Row wasn't killed by controversy. It was killed by dilution. When a reboot forgets what it's rebooting, the brand usually notices first. Noire. This game was revolutionary and completely unsustainable. Noire, launched in 2011, developed by Team Bondi and published by Rockstar Games. Its selling point was cutting-edge facial capture technology that let players read suspects' emotions in real time. It worked. Reviews were strong. The game sold over 7.5 million copies. On the surface, this was a clear success. Underneath, it was chaos. Development stretched over 7 years, starting on PlayStation 3 hardware that barely existed at the time. Team Bondi cycled through hundreds of developers, many of whom later claimed their work went uncredited. Crunch was constant. Rockstar stepped in repeatedly to stabilize production, eventually taking creative and technical control just to get the game finished. When game finally shipped, the damage was already done. Team Bondi had no second project ready. Internal relationships were fractured. Public reports about toxic management and extreme working conditions surfaced almost immediately after launch. Rockstar declined to continue the partnership. By late 2011, Team Bondi shut down. The studio that built one of the most technologically ambitious games of its generation disappeared months after its biggest release. Noire lived on through remasters and re-releases. Its creators did not. It proved that innovation can carry a game, but not a studio, if the cost is too high. Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning. This game didn't fail because it was bad. It failed because it was impossibly expensive. Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning launched in 2012, developed by 38 studios and backed by an unusual mix of celebrity talent and public funding. The studio was founded by baseball player Curt Schilling and partially funded by a $75 million loan from the state of Rhode Island. The game itself was solid. Strong combat. Deep lore written by R.A. Salvatore. Art direction by Todd McFarlane. Reviews were positive. Sales reached around 1.3 million copies, good by normal standards. Not good enough for 38 studios. The problem was scale. Reckoning was meant to be a single-player introduction to a massive MMO called Project Copernicus. The studio ballooned in size. Costs spiraled. The MMO never launched. The revenue never came. By mid-2012, 38 studios ran out of money. Employees were laid off without notice. Offices closed. The studio collapsed, leaving the state of Rhode Island with millions in unpaid loans and years of legal fallout. Reckoning became a cult classic. It was later remastered. The studio behind it never recovered. Some games aren't designed to stand alone. When the rest of the plan collapses, they go down with it. The Lord of the Rings: Gollum. This game didn't just disappoint, it actively embarrassed everyone involved. The Lord of the Rings: Gollum launched in May 2023, developed by Daedalic Entertainment, a studio previously known for well-regarded point-and-click adventure games. This was their first big-budget action title, built around stealth, platforming, and narrative choice, all wrapped in one of the most valuable IPs in entertainment. Nothing about the final product justified that ambition. At launch, the game was technically unstable, visually outdated, and mechanically shallow. AI barely functioned. Stealth systems broke constantly. Animations looked unfinished. Reviews were brutal, with Metacritic scores hovering in the 30s. Memes spread faster than patches. Even hardcore Tolkien fans walked away. Daedalic issued a public apology days after release and promised fixes. They delivered some updates. The damage was already irreversible. Behind the scenes, this project had stretched the studio beyond its limits. Daedalic had no experience building modern 3D action games at this scale. Development dragged on for years. Expectations rose. Costs followed. Sales collapsed. By July 2023, Daedalic shut down its entire game development division. Not just layoffs. A full exit from making games. The studio pivoted back to publishing only. Gollum didn't just fail as a game. It ended Daedalic's identity as a developer. Some licenses don't save studios. They expose them. Tomb Raider, the Angel of Darkness. This game didn't kill Tomb Raider. It almost killed the people making it. The Angel of Darkness launched in 2003, developed by Core Design, the original creators of Tomb Raider. It was meant to reinvent the franchise for PlayStation 2, darker tone, deeper story, RPG elements, and a more realistic Lara Croft. What shipped was unfinished. Development was plagued by engine rewrites, staff turnover, and impossible deadlines. Eidos wanted a launch window tied to the PS2 era's momentum. Core Design needed more time. They didn't get it. Entire systems were cut weeks before release. The final game was buggy, unresponsive, and structurally broken. Controls frustrated players. Combat barely worked. Reviews were harsh. Sales underperformed relative to expectations for a Tomb Raider title. The consequences were immediate. Eidos removed Tomb Raider from Core Design and handed the franchise to Crystal Dynamics. Core was downsized, restructured, and slowly faded out. The studio that created one of gaming's most iconic characters never touched her again. Angel of Darkness became a cautionary tale, not about ambition, but about shipping something before it's ready. Lara Croft survived, but her creators didn't. Some studios collapse loudly. Some quietly disappear after one project goes wrong. And sometimes, a single game doesn't just fail. It draws a line where everything before it ends.